Yeah, great. So hello everyone, hello and hello and hello. It's nice to have you on the show. Welcome to PBL Festival, and we're excited to have you from EAZY-DIGI. It promises to be an amazing time. So this is something we do every month. It's a virtual educators conference, and we examine critical issues in the education sector across the global village. We try to bring people that are doing amazing things and see how we can provide network learning opportunity via this conference. We believe the world is a global village, and education should be seen from a single perspective across the global village. And everything we're doing is to that's why we have people from every continent coming around. We're discussing, we're saying the same thing. We're looking at what education is one of the things that brings us together that we all have in common that we need to consider and also look at what direction is taken. And that drives us to the essence of this event, talking about PBL Festival, project-based learning being the focus. We know that project-based learning is an approach to learning that offers learners an opportunity to really engage with real-life problems. It creates an atmosphere of reality, and it helps them to begin to build the skills they need to relate in real life. All right, that element of reality must be very important in every learning experience, in the K-12 and even beyond that. And this means this is something that should be happening everywhere, something that should be happening everywhere and that's why we came up with this for this particular for this month's conference. Also, being the media, in Africa, in Nigeria, schools are about to wrap up and prepare for a new session. We know something like that is happening in other places too. Teresa, can you say something about that?
Yes, absolutely. I think in this side of the world also, we're getting ready to wrap up a year and have a break from it all. But I think it's also a very important time because then, we get to reflect on what has happened in the academic year and also plan on what approaches can be taken in the new year. So I'm very excited about this topic because I think it's going to bring us new insights, new perspectives, things that we can focus on. So I'm very excited to be hearing from our speakers today. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be disruptive.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so Teresa, I'm going to hand over to you now, and we have see um so we have Kyle on the show. Kyle is here with us from Hong Kong. I'm going to bring him on, and okay, so let's see. Yeah, so Kyle is in. Um, yes, Kyle, can you hear us? I mean, can
Yeah,
you
I
hear
can hear
me?
you. Yep.
Amazing, 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 great. Thanks for joining us. Sorry for the little technical issues at the beginning. We had to just put some things together. But what I said, you're very much welcome. Teresa, please, I need to hand over to you now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. To all of our viewers, all of the subscribers, we have in our presence today Kyle Wagner. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us. It is an absolute pleasure to have you in our midst. When my colleague speaks about you, you are portrayed as the PBL king. So we know that you're all the way in the east over there. Welcome to our session this afternoon. I'm not going to spend enough time finding out, even though I've got so many questions. I'm going to hand over to you immediately so that you can give us just a little bit of an introduction to who you are, what it is that you are doing, and then we're going to give you about 15 minutes to just take us into what it is that you have prepared for us today. Welcome.
Sure. Thanks so much. You want me to start by just giving a background on who I am?
That'll be awesome. Thank you.
Great. Well, you guys can probably tell I am not actually originally from Hong Kong. I'm just over in Hong Kong. I always introduce myself as a project-based learning evangelist that first drank the Kool-Aid and got converted back at High Tech High in San Diego, which many of you probably know from the hit documentary Most Likely to Succeed. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend seeing it. It will be transformative and help you to imagine what possibly could be for students when you really give over ownership of learning to students. So I know there's a brief introduction about really what the power of PBL is. I think PBL is more than just, you know, a teaching and learning strategy. Really, its essence, it's a way of being. And I think to actually really become a PBL teacher, it's more than just, you know, learning a couple tricks of the trade. It's actually, you know, embodying what it means to really step back and let students take ownership of the learning. And I'm quite honored to be able to share, you know, a bit about what that looks like, and really just offer some inspiration for whoever's watching this for what it might look like in your context, in your situation. So I've been at this work for about 12 to 15 years, moving out of the classroom now and just helping support schools and educators to set up these kind of experiences for students, and drink the same Kool-Aid I drank back at High Tech High. So do you want me to jump into it, or do you have something else?
I think that you're going to have to give us some of that Kool-Aid, please.
All right, I need some of the Kool-Aid. I always say too, you know, I don't like sharing screens too much, but I feel like the best way is just to show you. So I gave you a bit of an introduction, and I told you about the power of project-based learning to transform communities and students. So I'm going to share this screen. We'll see if this works. You can tell me if it doesn't work. I think I'm sharing it now, hopefully. Do you see me being shared?
I still just see you. I think let's give it, something's happening. Absolutely. We can see your screen. Thank you so much.
All right,
you can go ahead.
Magic. All right. So this is me. If it resonates with you and you want to tweet it out, that's my Twitter handle. That's my LinkedIn as well. And that's, you know, my website. This is me with a student back in my 20s. I won't give away my age now, but it's a lot older. And that's where my journey began. So a bit about me, and really I want to talk about the power of PBL to transform classrooms and communities. Again, it's not just a teaching and learning practice. It's something that in its core essence is transformative. And I'm going to share an experience of what that looks like. And I want to start with this provocation of what if. We've talked during this time of COVID, we haven't had the opportunity to reimagine what education can look like. And I want us to think, what if this wall that is separating school from community, what if we broke down that wall and we moved school a little bit closer to community, and community overlaps school? And what would that look like if the way to connect those two pieces was through a high, meaningful, engaging, transformative project-based experience? And that's what I'm all about. And that's what I'm going to share with you in my journey through project-based learning. And like I said, it started back in High Tech High, but I'm going to digress to a place that was not High Tech High in San Diego. But this was Beijing, China. And what I'm showing you is the power of what happens when you start learning experiences from something that exists in the community. And this was something that existed in our community. This was a baby with its mother, and as you can probably tell from the lip, this baby suffers from cleft palate. Cleft palate lip is a very easy surgery to correct. It's only 5,000 USD to correct it. Unfortunately, a lot of these families don't have the funds to do that. And our school had started a partnership with the International School of Beijing. We had started a partnership with an organization that helps fund these cleft palate surgeries. And you might be wondering, well, where does project-based learning come into play here? Well, first, you always start a good project with a good community need. And that was a community need that had already started. And again, I'm going to put this provocation. What if? What if you took that simple provocation, that community need, you got together with some other teachers, with Chinese teacher, the math science teacher, humanities, and an art teacher, and you decided to design a project around this simple need? What would that look like? What if we redesigned learning around an actual need, and we fit the skills around that learning experience, rather than always trying to fit our learning experiences around our narrow confines of our curriculum? That's what these instructors and myself did. And the Business for Babies project was born. As I mentioned, it's 5,000 USD to fund a cleft palate surgery. But we didn't want to just simply say to students, hey, raise money, see how you can do. Because here's a real opportunity with project-based learning, if it's wrapped around a community need, where you can really get into your curriculum and things you had to teach. And so we've put forth this driving question: how can you use the principles of entrepreneurship to meet a community need? And it was not us that was going to solve this problem. It was our amazing students, seventh graders. So 12 students, 11 and 12 years old. Their job, their task was to create a business. That business was hopefully going to these cleft palate surgeries. And so what does that look like? What if is, again, the provocation that I want to pose for everybody. Now, I don't know if there's a way for people to chat in some kind of chat window. I don't know if that's possible, but I just start this. If you're a teacher and you're looking at your subject and you're thinking kids are going to be developing business, and that's your driving question, well, what kind of content might you be able to cover with this as a focus of your project? Business for babies. They're going to be starting, curating, creating their own business that's going to raise funds for the community. What content could you possibly cover if this was you being tasked for this project-based experience? So are they able to chat some? I don't know.
We have a chat on the side there. So
Okay.
I'm sure that at the bottom, people can just, on the private chat group over there, they can just pop any questions or comments, and then Mr. Adebayo will just connect with us through that.
All right. Great. So
I see
I'll continue.
sorry to interrupt you. I see we already have a comment there from Shauna Anderson. What if?
Okay.
Awesome. Imagine what our learners or future leaders will come up with.
Yeah. Great. What if? What will our future leaders come up with? Great provocation. So again, I'm going to move on to the presentation. Think in terms of your lens of your subject. Is this simple application and question? The learning is going to happen through this simple question. So all that complex curriculum that we have to cover, if you have a simple provocation that is matched around something that students are highly engaged with because it's a real community need, all that complex curriculum is going to work itself out. So I'm going to share that in a second. So we got together as teachers. We had this as a driving question. We said to students, how might you answer this particular question? Principles of entrepreneurship to meet a community need. Now, like I said, the way to restructure learning is to center it around a simple provocation. We need to get rid of complex curriculums and go straight to our curriculum documents and write 5 to 10 more pages of curriculum. We don't need to do that. What we need to do is have a simple structure, and that's what project-based learning allows for. It's a driving question which allows for students to go many ways. And now how do you bring them in? Like I said, the provocation was going to be what if? What if students, to answer this question, met with real business owners that were their adult mentors? And you might be thinking to yourself as a teacher, where am I going to find these people? Guess what? These were the parents of our students. We had about 5 or 6 parents who were entrepreneurs who were willing to serve as coaches for teams of students that got together. So what if students were writing their business, and think about how much rigor is involved with writing a business plan, and they actually got support from a business owner to do it? And what if, instead of telling students you got one choice in your product, you're going to produce an essay, you produce a poem, you're going to write a test, you actually gave them choice and said you can create whatever you want to create as long as you have a business plan and as long as you can show somehow it's going to be profitable. Students were able to design their products on their own and then get the help they needed, as you see here from a YouTube tutorial, right? There's no teacher in sight. So already you're probably seeing the power of project-based learning. Students in initiative, students taking ownership, really addressing a community need, going deep with the support mentors. And again, well, what if they were able to create their own advertisements? They were able to drive the process of whatever product that they developed in this particular business. And you as a teacher were just able to provide the support, teaching them a little bit about how to create a video, how to combine colors, and you brought people in to be able to show a little bit about design. And I'll play this just for a second. Let me see if I can play it. Okay. So what you just saw there was a student-created advertisement. They combined music. They had to write a script for this particular video or commercial. As you saw, they had to film, they had to edit, and that was all just for advertising their business. So think about all the skills and content you could have combined already between business plan, between the advertisement creation, and between the development of their products. So, but PBL does more than that. You know, you think about, well, how might we combine other subjects? Art helps teach them a little bit about logo design, and so students were able to design their own logo. This business was Shirtify, where the student lets you customize your own. This was Ace Desk, a tech team that helped develop office products. So students, multiple different choices in where they can go. And then what if students were able to exhibit their products, not necessarily for just a classroom or taking a paper or pencil test, but they're actually able to create products for a real market. These are students here who are exhibiting products that they created, the handmade workshops, and pleased to say that they raised funds to help support the babies. And what if as well, just like real business owners, instead of doing math out of a textbook, students were able to do math, determine their profits and losses for their business creation. You've seen a lot of content, but what I started with, which is most important, is the ability of project-based learning to transform communities, because it's just about covering content. And when all was said and done, the students raised $131,653. That's RMB. That's not US dollars. It's still a lot of money.
Oh, that's an impressive amount.
It's about 25,000 USD. But so imagine that you're able to cover your content and skills. You're able to connect with multiple different disciplines. You're building student ownership and engagement, and they're really addressing a community need. And you're doing all that through a simple project structure. So that's what I wanted to share. I just wanted to briefly say this before you probably ask questions, is that it's not just confined for face-to-face classrooms, which I know a lot of people are thinking. They're thinking, you know what, that's great. I've got COVID now. I've got learners online. I'm not going to be able to do project-based learning. It's back to the textbook. And I will say, that's not true, because lots of people are doing project-based learning, even in this socially distanced environment. These are students who created a class book on stories that they captured from the community through COVID. There are students who helped restaurant owners rebrand themselves into food trucks during this difficult time. These are students who helped capture family heritage stories and put together a class recipe book during COVID. These are students who created hygiene campaigns in the community that actually there's some certain things we could do to the spread of COVID, and we're going to help you do that. And these were students who created socially distanced holiday makerspace projects for people who, you know, were really missing their loved ones during the holiday. Project-based learning is not just confined for the best of times. It's also able to transform communities in our tough times as well. My question to you is, how will you use PBL to help students transform their community? If you want, I got a book that's out, and it's going to help you learn to transform your timetable, design interdisciplinary experiences, provide student autonomy and choice, create small learning communities, and develop real connections. You can get that book on Amazon, and there's a little PBL starter kit too. It's free as well if you want to get started on that. So that's my bit, and you're sure you probably have questions now.
I have so many questions. Thank you so much. That is absolutely inspirational, very interesting, and I think also it gives us, you know, a real life practical example of how powerful project-based learning can be. I'm just going to take together a few of the things that you said, because one of my first questions was going to be, where do you start? And you've started with identifying that community need and then spreading from that point. My question is, how do you fit curriculum and assessment into something like this in a real school setup? How do you bring that together? If you can just, I think we have another 2 minutes.
Yeah, great question. So a couple of ways they were assessed. They were assessed through the business plan that they wrote. So the business plan obviously had a lot of English skills that they had to use in organizing their writing for the business plan, in presenting that as well. So that was speaking, that was writing, math that they had to incorporate in their business plan, as well as their financial projections. So you assess through the actual authentic products that students are creating. And if you can't, you can still do the paper pencil test. But we're still related to the bigger project idea. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. And then tell me, a time span for a project like that, would this cover a week, a segment of a week? Would it cover a term? How do you see this working out practically?
We fortunately had the opportunity to do this really full time, but I would say for starting points, to have a PBL block in your timetable, at least 2, maybe per week. I think the best way to do it is have an afternoon. So you have your mornings maybe for skill building, and have afternoon designed around larger kind of inquiries and questions. So if you're able to have afternoons designated for it, you can do this each afternoon and maybe get it done over 6 to 8 weeks. If you don't, and you only have 2 kind of blocks a week, it might take a little bit longer.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it means that you can still, you're doing justice to the curriculum, but you're also bringing out the authenticity of the learning experience while that is happening. So it sort of runs together. Kyle Wagner, thank you very much. That has been absolutely amazing. I'm going to read 1 or 2 comments from what I've seen over here. Pearl Garden School, PBL raises change agents. Would you agree with that?
100%.
I think that's exactly what we are aimed at here. Unfortunately, I'm going to ask anybody who has a question for Kyle to pop that into the comment box for us. We're going to allow for other speakers as well. And we're going to ask you to stay online if that is at all possible. And we can always come back to you if there are some more questions. Would that be okay?
Sounds good.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We're going to be listening to somebody else who is also equally passionate about this. So next speaker is Sally Kimago, and she's going to also enlighten us about project-based learning from her perspective. Kyle Wagner, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your valuable input. Again, participants, if you are interested in finding out some more, if you have some burning questions, if there's something out of the presentation that you would like to focus on, please feel free to type into the chat box, and we would be coming back and welcome your responses. Right now with us, we have Sally. Sally, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Welcome, Sally. It is an absolute. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Just tell them to reduce the volume.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a 10-minute segment. You are clear. You are clear. We have a 10-minute segment for you. We're speaking about PBL. We are very excited about this conference today, and we are ready to hear what it is that you have to impart with us. So you can start by just doing a little bit of an introduction with about yourself and what it is that you are doing, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Thank you, Kyle. I've been lost, and I'd like to engage you there because there seems to be tons and tons of information and nugget that you offered there. And I also think that it's a totally different perspective.
Nice.
I'm like, that is a light bulb moment. How about taking this with internship, which I'm very passionate about. So getting back to my intro, yes. Salim, I call myself, okay, yeah, you like calling me the queen. That's really my passion. So we work in Africa. We focus on countries. East, West, Central, and Southern Africa, where we engage with various stakeholders from governments to private sector on ensuring that the learner has the decision experience. So we do consulting, we advise governments on, can we try something different? Is what we've been doing for the past 20, 40 years working? Don't you think it's time we change? It's a board, COVID is here, and much more is here. So with that, we start with international that facilitates and enable get into the grassroots. You know, education is expensive, and I struggle where we live marginalized partners. So for us to be able to get to the grassroots and to the villages in partnership with economic development funders. So we collaborate with donors. We ensure that a particular country, the government doesn't have to bear the burden of educating children. So we assist ensuring these are how to have it facilitators, kids are fed, kids are taken care of, and much more teacher training. Going anywhere if we don't start from teacher training. We have success in a few countries in Africa, mostly attractions here and there with COVID, but I'm going strong. So I named the same Queen of Africa. Maybe we should just own up the title.
It's yours.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Going through your profile, there's something that struck me. It's a quotation: until we get equality in education, we won't have equality society. So how do you see all of this that we're speaking about today, project-based learning, the approach of STREAM, how does that come together so that we can get to that place?
Thank you, Teresa. That is why we ensure funding communities in this. We've also come up with implementation plans, and we've spent endless hours looking at, is this possible? Can we get project-based learning right in the villages? What does this mean? What is STEM? What is STEM education? We're talking about just phones and Apple tablets or iPads and stuff like that. No. It can be done. We emphasize on the use of recycled materials. We've done it in village. Infrastructure is a challenge. A lot of Africa, you find some places with no power. It's struggle to get into the villages. I'm actually kilometers right in the city, and there is a little bit of noise because I had to go to the only rest that I could get very good connectivity. Where schools are on, so we're working. Where schools are on, we push the projects. Lockdowns are on. But
I'm sorry,
they're real.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Any other part of the world, but Africa, that's all the that you can hear the background noise. I'm working from a restaurant which has the best connectivity.
I'm picking up that there's a connectivity problem.
We have connectivity issues.
Okay, connectivity. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're saying is you're currently in a restaurant where you could get the best connectivity. All right, it seems that we have some sort of issue there connecting with Sally. I'm just quickly going to recap while we try and regain connectivity over there. I'm going to take a look at some of the comments that we already have in our chat box. The major complaints of teachers when it comes to PBL is the fact that they have their standard subject areas and scheme of work stipulated per term. And if they have to go full on PBL, well, I think what we're addressing here is complaints about the limitations of curriculum, content in subject areas, and of course also time spent on managing a project-based learning program. I also have another comment here from Shauno who says that that is why often school doesn't opt for or work for PBL. In an alternative educational environment outside of school, it works way better. I'm happy that we are seeing these comments, because we want to highlight not only the best practices from PBL, but we also want to take a look at what are the challenges that are faced in our communities, especially. And I think we have an example here. One of the things that probably does impact is connectivity, access to resources, and also having the kind of support from communities and even administration at large. So I'm so sorry for the interruption. It seems that Sally's internet connection is a little bit faulty. Sally, you asked if you might be better with your video off. We don't mind that. If you can hear me, you may continue now.
Thank you, Teresa. Well, a clear example on and that way when we look at PBL, so much on problem solving, we focus so much on solving. So yes, we have, but what can we do and how problem? Previously, I do a lot of speaking engagements. I've been forced to work on a video that then I send to present me. So that's one of the ways to solve that problem. So this particular one, I thought it would go smoothly, but let me video straight to my presentation, right?
So you can get straight through it. Thank you so much.
I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you
Yes.
clearly.
Okay. Just before my just for me to give you a on exactly what we do. Yes, we work on recycled materials. We get to the grassroots of one village to the other, making sure that there's no child left behind. Let me just get to my video. Teresa, you need to visit Africa.
I come from Africa. I'm South African, so I know all about our struggles, which is why we are doing this. We definitely want to reach everybody. So we understand that the struggles are real, and I think that's part of why our research project is so important, because we want to find solutions.
True. My sharing will be enabled.
Okay.
I'm quickly sharing a video. Let me know when you see it. That's explains exactly how we're trying to solve problems in Africa, how we're trying to enable learners to embrace. Yeah.
Destination imagination. I see cross-curricular activity. I see differentiated activity. Sally, what is it that you would like to leave us with?
Well, amateur. So that question is quite big. I might take the
All
rest
right.
of the session saying it.
I'm going to ask you to limit it for now, and maybe in future we can knock on your door again.
Okay, let's try to encourage each and every other person to embrace PBL. Let's try to ensure we don't leave any child behind. Let's try to be kind and gentle and to encourage teachers who are doing the most difficult work at this point in time to embrace technology, to embrace PBL. Let's have learner-centered education going on. It's the only way we can change the future. Thank you.
Wow, Sally, thank you. Thank you for your time. The visual that you've shown us is really informative. As a STREAM and ed tech specialist, I think you are aware quite how important it is that we do bring our learners up to speed with the skills that they need in order to drive all of this. So thank you so much for sharing that. To our viewers and our participants, please, if you have any comments or any questions, please feel free to pop them into our comment section. We will be having a session where we're going to be looking at any questions or any areas of concern that we would like to address. But for now, we are very happy to hear from you, Sally. Thank you very, very much for sharing with us. STREAM, ed tech, transformation, student-centered learning. These are all the buzzwords for today, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to go to Nigeria now for another speaker who is going to impart some knowledge with us. We're going to ask Miss Evie, are you able to hear me? Hi there, are you able to hear me? We cannot hear you. Can we quickly just have a look at those audio settings over there? I can see you, but I cannot hear you. To our viewers, we have Nigeria's own from a school community called Pearl's Garden, which I think is an apt name because I'm sure there's a whole lot of pearls over there just waiting to see the light of day. We are going to be welcoming Evie Nwaloka. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Please, if you are able to hear me, can you give me the indication? I'm not able to hear you. I think you might still be on mute. I am looking at our comment box to our viewers out there. We are seeing some very lively interaction on the comment section. I think one of the challenges that is mentioned is the internet. And I think that we have connectivity problems generally, and this is probably going to be one of our biggest challenge to work on. We hope we can find a little genius that can come up with a way in which we can solve all interaction or internet connectivity problems. As we become more and more aware of the requirements of 21st century and the fourth revolution, school systems have to be reformed. This is one of the comments that we are receiving. Absolutely, there are so many things that we become aware of if we take a look outside of the classroom. And the fact that we are in the fourth revolution, the fact that we are living in the 21st century, obviously there are so many skills that we require that we did not need before. The shift from the knowledge-based economy to a more practical economy and a practical way of doing things definitely necessitates a different kind of learner and necessitates a different kind of educator. Thank you so much for those valuable comments that comes from Pearl Garden. Pearl's Garden is in Nigeria. It seems that we have a problem connecting. Miss Evie, are you able to hear me? All right, ladies and gentlemen, it seems that we have some sort of connectivity problem over there. Right now, I'm going to open up, if there are any questions that you have for our previous speaker. We had Mr. Kyle Wagner, who has given us an example, a practical example of project-based learning. If there are any questions that you would like to pose to our speaker, we would be happy to take those questions now while we try and get Edie on the line. Also, if you have any questions for Ms. Sally Kimbago, she is the ed tech professional there, so she knows what she's doing as far as that is concerned. If you have any questions in that regard, please be sure to pop those in the chat box. For now, I'm also going to let you know that we do have some other speakers waiting for their turn today. And we're going to be moving. We have the east, and then we sort of came to the center, and now we're going to go all the way to the other side as well. And we are going to be hearing from our colleagues all the way in the US. Miss Edie, are you able to connect with us, or shall we move to the next speaker? All right, I'm going to ask, okay, thank you, Miss Evie. Then we are going to move on. Mr. Adebayo, I'm going to welcome you back, and let us quickly see if we are able to move on to the next speaker. Is that possible?
Yes. Let me confirm that you can hear me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So something amazing is happening right now where I am. It's raining heavily. So yeah. This is part of project-based learning.
Yes.
These are realities. You can be working on a project and all of a sudden there's a change in weather, and
Absolutely.
just to speak to the fact that we live in a time where everything is just unpredictable. Anything can change at any time, and then you have to just be ready to maneuver and just dance around things. Okay, I think we can get on with our next speaker. I'm sure Mary is around. Mary is around. I can see her post often in the chat room. Mary, if you can, please, you can join us in the studio. I think it's possible now. Mary, if you can join us in the studio. It's very much possible. You can join us in the studio. So while we're trying to work on getting Mary connected for our presentation, so Teresa, I also have a number of questions.
Yes.
I have a number of questions. I have a number of questions. So looking at Kyle and Sally, so they both come from different perspectives and also from different experiences, related to project-based learning. So this seems to me that right now we need to begin to redefine our learning outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
We need to begin to redefine our learning outcomes. The push greatly towards grades. We need to have the good grades, and then I see this kind of mindset, especially with learners, that when they get into school, they see themselves coming to an environment where all they've come to do is to learn, and at the end of the day, they're gonna use grades to show an evidence of their learning experience. All right, and so that's the expectation. All right, so they come into a place called school, and then they know that what is expected of them is that when I'm done, I should be able to provide a grade.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but what we have seen shows that it's no longer just going to be a grade. All right, it's going to be a discovery. We're saying when you're done, you stay in a place for 3 months, and especially it becomes more painful for me when you have spent an entire session. You say you've been in a place learning for an entire session. That's about 9 months or 10 months thereabout. And at the end of the day, what you can show for that learning experience is a grade. I mean, it's so demeaning. I mean, it means for that period of time, we have stifled creativity and innovation out of the entire learning experience. And that learner or the learners in that kind of context cannot say, oh, I have discovered something. Cannot say, oh, I have a product to show for my learning. cannot say, oh, I have something that is real, that is relevant, that the society will appreciate. All right, that has value. So I like it when Kai said PBL, adds value to the community. The focus is the community, and we're thinking, what can we add? And I look at the fact that we have many schools. For example, out in Nigeria, we have so many schools. If we have so many schools, and we keep complaining that as society we're not advancing and all of that, then my question is, what is the education all about then? I told someone frankly, I said, see, we need to convert our problems to a curriculum, and let's just know that's what we're facing. There are many things that we need to pay attention to, and this is one thing Project Building of Us that I love so much. So that's what I see. And my question, like I said, that's that, does this mean that we need to change the narrative and say, no more, no more, no more? Our learning outcomes will now be focused on products, on discoveries, on values that increases our community. What can you say about that?
I can say in one word, we are disruptive. And this means that there are so many things that we have to disrupt. I'd like to come back to a comment in the commentary over there. Tato Masi says, yes, I agree. The school system must be reformed. We have been using an outdated school system. So to come to your question and also to answer it, I think that's exactly what needs to happen over here. If we take a look at our curriculum requirements, we can also identify curriculum limitations. If we take a look at assessment and the traditional way of assessing, I think that needs transformation. And what we have as a focal point today, project-based learning, is one way that we can absolutely address that. Because I think we are not saying throw everything out, throw learning outcomes out. I don't think that's what we're saying. I think we're saying, let's take a new way of looking at what you are doing it and present it in a different way. If we have a look at the presentation by Kyle, you will notice that the absence of the teacher is so significant. The teacher is not there. The teacher plans the learning experience, sits back, and then only offers facilitation while the students take charge of the learning. So the idea, the traditional idea of coming to school, getting the content, getting the knowledge, and then having to regurgitate that so that you can get a grade, we know that is definitely the reality of what we are faced with. But I do think that if we take the approach as teachers, we're going to be doing what is expected of us. But as the teacher, as the person in charge of the learning experience in your class, we are suggesting, take a look at this way of doing things so that instead of coming up with just a grade, you're coming up with a competency. So the learners are going to show their authentic the learning through the competencies that they display. I hope that addresses the question.
Very well, very well, very well. Very well. Let me see if Mr. Lani, can you hear? Okay. We need to pull Mr. Lani in. Yeah, Mr. Lani, can you hear us? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, it's fine. So we have to move to the second segment now. We have Mari, we have Jessica, and we also have Shona. I'm sure they're trying to connect. They're trying to join us in the studio, and I believe they would be with us as soon as possible. But while we're waiting for them, Teresa, we can get on. We can move on with the conversation.
Absolutely. I think also if we take a look at some of the comments coming through there, I'd like to read the comment by Pearl's Garden School. It said, if schools that have to be the beacon now serve as the hindrance to adequate students' preparation for the future. Education is life, not a bunch of assessments. And thank you so much for that comment, because I think that this is true. We have to take a look at school should not be the reason why our learners are not excelling. And I think, if a system is not working, and if there are too many things that you are able to identify that is creating the problems, then I think you're going to be sitting with demotivated teachers who do not see the beauty in the solutions. So I'm hoping that we are able to provide solutions for each other so that we are able to move from the point where we are dissatisfied with curriculum, we're dissatisfied with that expectations, we're dissatisfied with assessment, and I think it's okay to be at that place. But I think it is also very important that we then get to a place where we provide an alternative and where we come up with the suggestions, where we try in practice ourselves, and out of that we can maybe find that solution that we are seeking. I'm waiting to, I can see that Mr. Olini is here. So I think I'm going to stop the conversation over there and hand over so that we can get to know what it is that our other speakers have for us as well. Thank you for your patience. As we have said, we have challenges. We cannot fight against nature. So sometimes things do go wrong. Please bear with us as we try to connect with the other speakers and then share some more. Thank you, guys. Please keep those comments coming. We are happy to hear from you. We are happy to share information like this, and we are happy to be engaging in these points.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Teresa. Thank you. Yeah, so Mr. Lani, let me be sure you can hear me. Can you hear me, Mr. Lani? Okay.
We
Yes,
have a visual.
Mr. Lani is here. Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Lani, can you hear me? Oh, okay, that's cool. We have another. Okay, I guess Mr. Lani is trying to connect. Okay, so we have Jessica with us. We had last month's conference, and that was about okay, so Mari, I see you on YouTube that you're in. Okay, could you hook up with us in the studio so we can see you? We have Jessica with us. Jessica is here. She's from Pinecrest School. I think that's California, if I'm not wrong. And she was one of our guests at the last conference we had, and where she talked about agile in education. You know, one of the things that's happening, so many things that's coming into education right now, so many things, and we're having agile, something that has to do with but now in the context of education, setting in, and she's doing amazing things with that approach to learning, which is really very important. Yeah, because agility is something that is needed and strongly in. Oh, Mari, you're not in. I can't see you in the studio, Mari. I can only see you on YouTube, but you need to join with the studio link so you can get in, Mari. All right, so we're going to be having our journals very soon. Mr. Lani, can you hear me? Let me confirm that you can hear me. Oh, Mr. Lani, I cannot hear you. I can see you, but I cannot hear you. Oh my, I guess it's the network. Okay, it's fine. It's all fine. It's all fine. Okay, so Mr. Lani, let's save our conversation for Mari now so that she can come up and she can take us on another journey. And I'm sure before she's done, we'll get through with the audio. All right, Mari, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Very well, I can hear you very well.
Okay, let me turn off my other computer real quick.
Okay, that's fine.
Awesome. It's been a great conversation so far, by the way. Amazing speakers, amazing chat. And I actually spent a little bit of time switching my PowerPoint around to address some of those questions in the chat. Because I've been doing a lot of recent research lately. So it's been very interesting. And the conversation here is like amazing. So thank you very much.
Yeah, great. So we're excited to have you. So, Mari, just take it easy with us in this event, because I I know you've been so busy a lot lately with so many research, and I know right now, if we give you the whole time, it's even if we give it the next 5 hours, I'm sure it's not going to be better for you.
Right?
Yeah.
I've been telling you what I've been going through here. I've been fighting this equity thing. It's
Yeah.
been crazy.
I do understand.
With a global tech company. Crazy.
Yeah, it's really been crazy. In our last conversation, when you talk about decolonized research, that really resonates, and I was like, yes. That's what we're talking about, and that's why at EAZY-DIGI we try to make sure that what we're doing, our research projects are cross-continental, they are cross everywhere. We want to pull every voices from everywhere across the global village.
Absolutely.
So to the point where we can talk about education from a single perspective across the global village, and then we're saying we're taking a direction and we're together. No place is left behind across the globe, and that's what we're doing. So I love that so much. So I'm just going to hand over to you, Mari, in the next 10 minutes to take us on that journey, to share your PBL with us, and I really can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see
that. I'm excited. For some reason, my little PowerPoint is not. Hold on. Let's do a don't save here, and let's do a save over there. Okay. Oh, there it is. Cool. All right, here we go. So let me do like a little save share. I have about a 5-minute video, but if we get going and questions start popping up, because I did add a couple of slides just from this conversation. You guys have seen like some amazing projects, and I have like a little video, and what I'll probably do is just talk over my video because it's just music and the kids there and stuff like that. But the conversation of how do I do this and still teach my standards, right? And then also another situation is, how do I do this and make sure that, quote unquote, I'm not in trouble for going in the direction of project-based learning, okay? And you're right. I've been doing just like our friends here, I've been doing a lot of roundtables, and I've also been doing leadership roundtables. And I've also been doing research for a global entity who I've had to fight with on some equity stuff. And the biggest thing is what we are dealing with colonization. Colonization within our schools, colonization within that factory model, standardized model of schooling, colonization within meritocracy. And that means we've got to test every kid at the end of the year, and you've got to get through your standards in order to test. And what they're finding is these tests, these accountability measures, and et cetera, are all, they do not test deeper learning. It's one whole big section of my dissertation. But what it is it residue left over from the second industrial revolution. Let me just get in here, because I need to get past some of these. Quick. What am I about? I'm about that equity. You know me. I am definitely about project-based learning, and I feel as if, and I've seen some beautiful projects here, and the fact that they are beautiful, they are entrepreneurial mindset. Yes, 100%. And community accountability. What can I do to help my community? What if our kids were not just accountable to these tests and these standards, okay, but they are accountable to their community? Maybe I'm a job creator. Maybe I am uplifting my community by creating something for my sustainable. And so I would love for us to move back into, let's look at our community, let's look at it. And what I need you to do, if you're looking at this of project-based learning, the liberatory type of project-based learning, I'm going to need you to read that Paulo Freire, okay? Because and you can literally go online and have full-on readings and his full-on book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. We have, what I've noticed is who I am fighting with on this with this global tech company. I'm fighting, and I love, first of all, I love every single color, every single skin, every single race. Everyone is wonderful. But there's a certain way, especially in Africa, when it comes to here you need technology, you need this. No, I need to connect to my community, and I need to create projects that will impact my community. And I'm going to do that with my kids. I have to take a stand as I'm in these educator roundtables when we're talking about it. What I noticed, which blew my mind, is the educators, we compartmentalize, meaning I'm going to teach now. I'm going to teach English now. I'm going to teach this one bit now. And then this is my project time, and this is my technology time, and this is my PE time. Stop it. It is integrated. It is a whole. You start with the standards. When I did my project-based learning, with my standards first, see how many standards I can tie in to my project. And then what I would do is, while they were working independently, yes, kindergarten, okay, that pulled them to the side. So their project-based learning was infused into their math time. Their project-based learning was infused into their science time. And it all kind of comes together. And then you bring the community, you go out to the community, you look at things for the community, and then you come back to your classroom, and you also bring the community into your classroom. So it's like a symbiotic relationship where they're going out. And so it might start out as a problem, but in our particular case, the one that I'm going to show you, we kind of had a problem, not a problem, but we wanted to, we did a joint relationship with Joshua Tree, and I'll show you that in a bit. But I did want to make sure that I addressed those questions, because you are going to have to be, what we decided in our educators forum, is you're going to have to be a rogue teacher. If you care about your students and you care about this life and this learning, you're going to have to go rogue. So have it on paper, have it beautiful, like, okay, this is it, standards. But those who are stepping into project-based and this innovative learning, it does not come out on a test. I'm going to let you know that. I've seen all this. This is what I'm doing for my dissertation right now. I'm studying this whole entire thing, breaking it down. And when we talk about technology, one of that I'm trying to get technology to own up to is that there's racism, and I have also mapped that racism out all the way back to antiquity. So now I need you to not think of yourself as a teacher anymore. I need you to start thinking of yourself as a change agent at this point when it comes down to this teaching, because that's how important teaching is for our children. Take a look at this. Industry 1.0. My research asks a question. If we had philosophy, math, science, all these things back in ancient history, how is it that just in the first Industry 1.0, how is it that we started doing some mechanization, right? And what it is because people, slaves, was that mechanical engineering. Okay, we are an extension of a master's hand. Okay, and so this is the research that I literally just found all the connections, correlating it right now. But I'm trying to publish this, y'all, and I'm gonna make sure that we are aware of this worldwide. All right, we're not standing for this anymore. Okay, and because of that, in 2.0, when everything started to get mass produced, they said, well, you know what? All the superintendents said, how closely can we make the school day with the bells ringing, et cetera, et cetera? How close can we make this to an actual factory? We're working in a factory of standardization. And our kids are not widgets, and teachers are not foremen, okay, and machine workers. What we are is we are teachers, and our kids are actual people. Okie dokie. So as we go into a 3.0 in this digitization, I'm gonna let you know, if you're still talking about your standards and the tell, that kind of stuff, you're not even at 3.0 yet as far as education, okay? But industry 4.0 is that next level. We're not gonna go over what it is because I hear talking about it and it's a beautiful thing. But this is important, and if I have 10 minutes, I'm sorry, because it's very important that we get to this right here. These are some books right here that you might want to take a look at. What they're finding is the Methafine book, okay, just came out a couple of years ago. And what they did a 6-year ethnography where they just followed kids around the US in high schools, okay? And what they found, which they weren't looking for in both books, they weren't looking for this, but they found that the schools that catered to affluent public schools and private schools, these are the schools that are doing the innovative, the technology-based, the project-based learning, the inquiry-based learning. The schools that cater to a diverse population of students, even if they say they're a STEM school or a project-based learning school or innovative school, they're not doing it. Because what they would do is they would just go around, and ethnography is where you just go around and you just follow kids all day. You don't say anything, you don't talk, sorry. You just take a look and you're just watching and observing. And what they watched and observed was that in schools that cater to a diverse students, actually, yeah, we need a mindset change. Thank you so much. The schools who said that they were even if they said we're a project-based learning school and they cater to a diverse population of students, what they found is that when they got to those core classes, those English classes, those social, they were not project-based. And what the teacher would tell the researchers was, oh, well, I'm just, training them up, getting the background knowledge, and then the project's gonna come later, right? And what they found is, because they didn't know, the teachers didn't know how long they would be in the classroom. Sometimes they would follow them for 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, right? Until they got enough information. Guess what? The projects never came. The projects never came, people. And so what we're looking at is somebody had said, well, that's why it's mostly done on, in after school programs and in the peripheral programs like music and this and that. And that's what they found. They found that the peripheral classes, your elective classes, oh yeah, they were all into that project-based learning. But the core classes were still core classes. Why? It's that factorization. It's the factorization of our schools left over. That's that residue from that 2.0. Okay. So if I give you anything today, I would love you to just have the strength to, you know what? I'm not doing that. Nobody, your schools over here aren't doing this. What they found in mostly Black schools specifically is that the reason why they were so strong in those Black schools was because they were specifically teaching to the test and all aligned, and so their test scores are so high. But it's true. The schools that are innovative and this, they are not worried about that test score. So if you're a leader and you're worried about that test score, I'm going to need you to think of other ways to assess. At the leadership roundtable I had earlier this week, talking with a director of assessment and accountability, and I said, well, how do you decenter the test? Because I know that the way that most of our schools get money is through doing well on the tests. Am I right? So therefore we have to do well on the test, right? Or else we don't get money to continue. It's a catch-22 situation that the system of education has us in. As a matter of fact, if you do Lamotte, Milner and Lamotte urban education books, chapter 27 is my biggest chapter. Love it. And what they say is, and if I don't get to the video, don't worry, you have lots of beautiful projects, but this is very important. I wasn't even going to do that. I was just going to show you the video, but but this is very important conversation. What they found was that testing and accountability and this westernization of all of our countries in Africa as well, right? All of these are called post-colonial apparatuses. That's what they are calling this testing, this accountability measures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and so we do have to change that, a mindset change. We have to change our mindset, because now we are going to get locked out of the fourth industrial revolution, because we're still in this, we're still teaching our kids in a 2.0 way. We're not even in the 4.0 way yet, but there are other schools and other countries. Okay, let's look at China. Let's look at the UK. Let's look at New Zealand, right? Let's look at Australia. All of these places, they have flipped. They've already flipped away. They've already stepped away from these accountability, and they've already found other ways to find accountability. Okay, and so maybe your accountability can be, how much impact have you had on our community? How many people have you fed because of your project? How many people are employed in your community because you have done these projects that are sustainable to our community? And so I would love for you to, I invite you to read through Paulo Freire. I get it wrong every time, but he's so amazing, right? You can even start on chapter 2. You can go back through everything else, but chapter 2 is where you need to be. Pedagogy of the oppressed. And I don't know how much time I have left. Maybe I just have 1 or 2 minutes, but it's important. And this is why it's important. The latest job report, okay, December 2020 World Economic Forum. But my biggest thing is right here. By 2025, we don't have that much time to turn it around. I hope I can switch your lobe on this right now, okay? If you're like, it's by 2025, 85 million jobs across the world gone. Technological unemployment. This is an economic singularity we're about to head into, people, okay? 97 million jobs will be replaced with those jobs. So you know how they always say, okay, well, we might lose job to automation, but we're going to get better jobs and we're going to be smarter. No, that's never how it has happened for African Americans, at least. Or I'm thinking the whole diaspora, right? What it has done is it has either 3 things: no jobs, more work in our current jobs, or very dangerous jobs. I don't want our children in any of these 3 categories. I want them with the jobs. Well, how do we get there? We get there through this project-based learning. If you are a leader here, what a recent research that my husband and I have been doing is that if you embed technology skills, if you embed project-based learning skills within your professional development, you will, the teachers will automatically start adopting those practices within their classrooms. And the range is from 24 hours to within a week. They will start automatically. Okay, so if you are a leader, one way that you can really in classroom through this life right here, I'm going to call it this life, okay? One way that you can impact them is by modeling it within your own practices of professional development. So, and I told my principal this a lot last year. I said, we don't have to like do project-based learning PD. We just do project learning within every PD. And it's not a compartmentalize the PBL section. No, you just do it naturally in your training to show those protocols, to show how you can still get your point across and have the teachers learn what they needed to learn or know what they needed to know within a creative and positive way. And they will automatically say, you know what, I was in that PD and that was kind of fun. Let me do that with my kids. You don't have to sit here and say, oh, this is project-based. Is that my time? I didn't get to my video, but guess what? It doesn't matter. Go back to January. I think I played it in January. So, but this is way more important conversation. I've been watching chat this last hour, and I hope that I have answered some of your questions. The reason why schools aren't doing it is because other schools are doing it. And I had to go back to this company and say, your 2021 innovative list of schools only had 4 schools out of 40 schools that served a diverse population. And that is only 1% of your worldwide innovative schools that you are as your innovative schools for 2021. That's today, right? And so that perspective right there gave them an aha moment, like, holy hell, what are we doing? And we have to start being this voice now. And you have to start taking a stand for our children. And I'm doing it at the top level. I don't want to say at the top level because there is no level. It's just a level. But I've seen some things that are hurting our kids, and equity, and I'm speaking out. And I'm taking a stand at the point of, dang, I might lose money off this. I don't know. But I think this is the type of stands that we all need to take, right? In our classrooms, in our organizations, in our schools, and ensure that our kids are not locked out of this future. That's all I gotta say. Oh, amazing, that was my video.
Amazing.
Yeah, so, that's it.
So to make sure about the future. Yeah, I like that. That was a powerful way to end to end your session. That our kids are not locked behind in the future. It's when you make that statement, it gets more pathetic for me, because it seems like we're about to be locked out again. Apparently, whatever our system, whatever education, whatever status, whatever strength our educational system had, that couldn't withstand the COVID, shows that there are many things that we need to review with respect to what we're doing, as regards education. We've said a number of things, and when we shared that last report, and then it keeps ringing in my head again, beginning with the end in mind. So if this is the essence, then this is another tragedy. Like, this is going to be so 2025. This is just 2021, and then it's just going to be in about 3-4 years, and
this is why I left. This is why I left the classroom. This is why I left the classroom, and this is why I am wild, and I don't care. We have to be at this point unapologetic. And I even told them last week, I said, look, I'm unapologetic and I'm presenting to the president of EDU at this global and I'm like this, I'm unapologetic when it comes to Black and brown kids. Sorry. Okay, we got to break some stuff up here, and technology also has to come to reckoning on the part that they have played in all of this as well, because we are all like, nobody knows, but luckily I've been working with some professors, and I'm like, this needs to get out and published, and hopefully it can get published soon. But yes, it has been amazing research that I've done lately, and amazing conversations that I've had done lately, and it's to the point where now it's like, hey, we're done with all of this, we got to move on to the next thing. Okay.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. No doubt we see across the village that it's high time we review our school. It's high time we review a system that, and the fact is that 5.0 is knocking, like it's knocking. It's saying, I want to get in. It's knocking. And I'm just like you said, right now.
Oh, it's breaking up. Is it me?
Probably it's me.
That's okay.
Oh my. Okay. Can you hear me? Is it better now? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Okay. So, Teresa, are you there? Can you?
I'm here. I'm glued to my screen.
Yeah. So what do you think about the conversation? Mr. Lani, are you there? Can you hear me? Okay, I'm not sure if Olani can hear me now. Okay.
There he is.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I can see you, but I can't hear you. I guess it's his network or something.
Maybe
Yeah,
just
okay,
a
it's fine.
connection.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. All right, so Teresa, what do you think about the conversation?
I agree. It's definitely it's a necessary conversation to be had. You know, we feel very strongly about that as well. The key words here is deconstructing. I read the word unschooling by Shauna Anderson in the chat. There are so many people that are raising the question, you know, like there are so many things that have been prescribed for us and to us. And I do think that the transformation is what we are interested in, and I think that is possibly why we are doing this. We can feel that this transformation is necessary. We want to break away from that colonial past. We want a time needs to come where people are looking at us and like, okay, what are they doing? Let's do what they are doing, instead of us always looking at other people. What are they doing, and informing that. For now, I think this is a necessary conversation to be had. I definitely love the energy. I love the passion. I think if you look at all our teachers, all our speakers here today, the lineup that we have a bunch of wild rogue teachers. We have a bunch of disruptive educational specialists, not because they simply just want to rock the boat, but because they see the value in doing things differently. There's so much literature that has been suggested in the chat, and I want to encourage you guys to go over and have a look at that chat. I'm loving the chat because I think this is the energy that we are seeking. And this is why we are looking to people who are not afraid to take on the almost or seemingly impossible. And yes, sure, the people who are unapologetic. So I definitely think there's more to be said about this. I hope we can definitely have some more conversation at another point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Mari, thank you so much. Please hang on YouTube. We'd like to keep hearing from you on YouTube. All right, so I have to like kind of congest the studio now so we can have other speakers join us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Lani, yeah, I can see you. Can you hear me? Oh, great. So all right, Shauna, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Amazing. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yes.
I can hear you. Yeah, great.
I'm so sorry we don't get to hear the people that are having connectivity issues.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. We're having fun. It's just one of those things. We're having fun. Yeah, because of time, I wouldn't like to. Shauna is the president and founder of U School. Shauna is just in the other side of school. You know, Shauna, I begged you, I told you, please take it easy on this event. Don't say. And I trust you. I know you're going to do that. Yeah. Because actually, she's on the other side of school. Yeah, you would be amazed to see what kind of school she's running and what school looks like from her. And so Shauna, you told me you want someone to join you on the presentation.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think she's here, but that's Marcy. Okay, I'm just gonna.
Yes, Marcy is someone that I'd love to invite into the room. And while you're bringing her up, I'll quickly just speak a little bit to what I do. I am a charter school administrator here in California. So I am within the public school world, but also operating outside of it too, with homeschoolers and home educators. I hate the word homeschooling though, because we're not really ever home. We're out in the community, right? So trying to think about a different word for that. And I recognize that across the globe, there are different laws with homeschooling that people need to follow. So here in California, we are pretty free to educate our kids the way that we want if we choose to homeschool, which is a huge blessing that I recognize not a lot of people have. So, so what we do at U-School, and thank you, Marcy, for being here. I just connected with Marcy yesterday, if you can believe it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this presentation tomorrow. Please join in if you can. She has this amazing product. I'm going to share my screen if I can.
Yes, please.
Let's see. Trying to figure out how to do that. I don't know if I can. Anyway, well, let me see. Play local video. I'm learning the tech too. Anyways, Marcy, while I'm trying to figure this out, do you want to maybe share a little bit about what you do at 3 Ducks Design?
For sure. Yeah, I popped onto this conversation a little bit in the middle, so I'm not sure exactly who my audience is, but that's okay. I'll wing it. I am not from education. I'm actually a pediatrician. And so I have a little bit of a different perspective on education than maybe people in the education system. I think learning happens everywhere and all the time. It happens at home. Parents are educators as much as teachers are educators. And I grew up, my family, teaching my children at home, and they learned in school. And my kids actually were so inspired by what they learned at home that they developed a product that basically equals the playing fields for learning everywhere, because it's based on cardboard, which is pretty much ubiquitous all over the world. And they built a modeling system. I have tons of it here. I don't know how big I am on anybody else's screen, but basically you can take any cardboard box and use it to create environments and then architectural models, and you use those to connect them to real world problems in your community and let children design solutions to those problems through play, but drawing from real world problems, either in their own community or around the world. So kids are learning while they play. We have lesson plans and content for students at home that parents, again, I'm a pediatrician, I'm used to teaching parents. So all of our content is very parent friendly. You feel like you're playing with your kids, but you're really teaching them. But we also have lesson plans and content for in-school learning as well. And that was perfect timing for you to, I think, be able to share your screen.
Yeah, can you see it now?
I can, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, yeah, so what we do at U-School is we allow educators to list classes and teach either enrichment classes or core classes. And we are developing a program where we have an educator that is assigned to your family that will help you lead your children through their learning journey and find things curated specifically for their individual learning styles and needs. So having an educator kind of guide you is part of the program that we're building at U-School. And I found Marcy yesterday and was looking at her products. So this is a little bit about U-School. I know Marie was talking before us, and she was speaking to just the accessibility of different types of education that are not necessarily available to everybody. So that's near and dear to my heart. We want to make something that is accessible for people. And you can see, here's my family. I have 6 kids. We educate them in and out of school, right? It changes. And so I'm not anti-public school by any means, or traditional school by any means. I think it works for kids, a certain number of kids for sure. But I think we need to allow that autonomy and that choice to find the best learning situation for each kid. So that's us. And this is a little bit about Marcy and what their mission is at 3 Ducks Design. So using simple products like cardboard, which is available most everywhere, and not giving them specific structure to come up with ideas, but giving them a problem to solve and letting them use their imagination, which I really loved. So one of the projects that she has available is something called Building Bridges, where the kids find the problem, which is they have to build this bridge. And maybe, Marcy, it's better if you talk about it because you've designed it. So if you want to share a little bit more, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So this particular lesson is called Building Bridges, and the academic part of it is that you're studying engineering and bridge design and mechanical engineering. But the creative side of it is that you're designing a bridge for your own community, or if you want to tie it to a lesson plan that you're teaching in civics, like if you're learning about feudal times, it can be a bridge, you know, a drawbridge over a castle. This particular class, in this particular example, they didn't build a bridge for people or cars. They actually chose to build it for animals to help prevent animals from getting injured in Canada on a major highway. So they built actual, I wouldn't call them pedestrians. I don't know if animals are considered pedestrians, but they built bridges over the highway so that animals could cross the highway without getting hit by cars. But so they're learning the engineering design like everybody else in any other community, but they're taking that bridge concept and they're using it for what is a local problem in their own community. This same project in New York City would clearly not be a pedestrian bridge for animals because there are almost no animals other than humans in New York City. But it could be like a bicycle bridge because that's a major problem in New York City. You know, in Colorado, it would be just to get from one mountain to another, so that you don't have to go down a mountain and up a mountain. So the idea is to take a real world problem in your community and design and solve a solution. So it's interesting to you, but then everybody's still learning the engineering part of it.
Yeah, and if I can, I'm going to go right to your website, Marcy, and grab that. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. And I go to lessons, I believe.
Yeah, yes, and she just learned this yesterday. So she's going through all the different lessons. Most of them are free. We do make a physical product, which my children actually invented, which are connectors, which I'm looking for. I have them all over. So they fit on all cardboard. And the idea is that prevents kids from needing to use glue and duct tape. And most importantly, in the design world, it allows for multiple iterations. So no project's ever done. They can take their connectors off and put them back on. But the truth is all the lesson plans, even if you don't have our connectors, can be done with materials in your own community so that as long as you have access to an internet, as at least enough to print a lesson, there's really no barrier to learning and using these tools. So the problems might be slightly different in each community, but the challenge, the academic skills gains will be the same no matter where you live. What socioeconomic, what culture, what community, what religion, doesn't matter. The problems cross all barriers.
Yeah, what I loved also about this is you have this kind of global futures area where these kids can kind of collaborate and work together across the world, right? And on projects in their community. And also you have an opportunity for fundraising too, right? So your kids, your students and learners can have a fundraiser where they raise money, they make a business plan, raise money for other kids in other communities that might not have access to buy the materials, right? I love that.
Yeah, I mean, our ultimate goal, we're a pretty young company, but our real goal is to connect kids around the world through solving problems, whether they're in their own community or each other's community. So the fundraiser is just one tool. But for example, children in, I forget, you're in Southern California, might want to pair with a school in Nairobi, and the school in Nairobi might not be able to pay for the materials to get shipped, which is what we're having a problem with right now. So they might do a fundraiser to help get materials to the school in Nairobi. But the other side of it is that they both really benefit because they'll both be building communities and teaching each other culture through their own projects. So like our landmark challenge is about building a landmark in your own community. But you have to express what your community and your cultures are about while you're building it. So when you share it with another group of students somewhere else, students are teaching each other about culture and community. And yeah, that's one of the block pages in a very engaging, authentic, and real way.
Right. Yeah. So there's so much that I love about this. Let me stop my share. And how it kind of ties in with what we do at U School is, as an educator or mom or not an educator, but I want to be able to teach kids, I want to do a project with kids, I can list a class, say, let's work on this project together. And we could do it virtually or in person. Let's get this activity, let's get this lesson plan. And if I don't know how to do a lesson plan, I just follow the steps. And there's a lot of products out there, but I love Marcy's in particular because it's sustainable, right? You're not using all of this plastic, and the connectors are reusable. Cardboard, gosh, I can't even tell you how much cardboard we have in our house that, that the kids want to cut up and make stuff out of anyway. So it's easy to do even as a parent with your kids. If your school is not a project-based learning school, these are things you can do outside of school, right? You can do these at home with your kids and encourage them and take control really of what your kids are learning. If they're not getting what they need at school, do it at home. And I think everybody can do that. So I don't know how much time I have left, but that's basically all we wanted to share and say. And Marcy, did you want to end with anything?
I have one more comment. Yeah. I mean, I come at life differently than educators because I'm a parent and a pediatrician. So most of my life, thank goodness, most children are healthy. So most of what I do is education. But because I'm used to teaching parents how to care for their children, I consider all parents educators. I say most people don't get married still in diapers. So you've already taught them potty training, you've taught them how to eat, you teach them how to communicate in the world. Parents are much more empowered as educators when they believe that they're educators. So a lot of the content that I write, for better or worse, because I'm not a teacher, it's harder for me to teach teachers than parents. So a lot of our content is really geared towards you're a parent playing with your child at home, and the education happens by accident through play. It's not like they have to learn math to build it. It's like, no, I need to know math to build my tiny house because it has to fit in this area that they told me. So let me figure out how to calculate it and count boxes or multiply because I need to do that to get my project finished, as opposed to I need to do it to get the grade, to get into college, to get a good job. Just a different mindset.
And what I love too is just having kids look in their community. What is the problem? What is the problem in your community? I know right now in our community, we're struggling a lot with the homeless population. How can we feed them? How can we help them? How can we have facilities for them to use, right? And so it's the things that the kids in the community will see every day. And just as a parent talking to them like, wow, that's a really difficult problem. What are some ideas that you think that we could do to help that? Just having those conversations. It doesn't have to happen in school. Project-based learning can happen everywhere and should happen everywhere.
And the interesting thing is, by leaving lesson plans and like project-based learning, because it's so open-ended, unfortunately, as we grow, we become less creative. We lose that wonderful concept of anything is possible that children still have. So by using project-based learning with younger children, you allow them that freedom to share their ideas untethered by like the powers that be, and no, you can't do that, or that won't work, or this won't work. Let them figure that out themselves, but don't shut those doors. Let them come up with creative solutions. Parents are very good at saying, no, you put that on the wrong way. And like, but you don't even know what they were trying to do. Like, how do you know that's the wrong way? Maybe they want a window on the ceiling. We wouldn't have skylights if that mom said, don't put a window on the ceiling. I don't know where everybody's from and if you all have skylights or windows in the ceiling, but we do. And somebody thought of that, and somebody's mom probably said, that's not where windows go, dude. You put it in the wrong place. But now we have skylights. So, but children have a million of those ideas. So that's just my take.
Yes, a beautiful take. So
Amazing.
thank you so much for the opportunity to share, both of you, and we so appreciate what you're doing and the ability to be in front of such a wide audience and be able to be with these amazing leaders in communities.
Yeah, and thank you for having me last moment.
Thank you for jumping on last moment.
Thank
I had to
you.
redo my presentation because I'm like, oh, this is perfect for
You
tomorrow.
can tell the kind of kid I was in school. I always raised my hand before they finished asking what, and they're like, wait, what did I get myself into?
Right.
So, yeah, my hand always goes up.
Amazing. That's great. Thank you, Shona. Thank you,
Yes.
Marcy, for this.
Thank you, Adebayo. And
Sure. Before now, I started thinking lately of cross-continental project-based learning. I was just thinking about it. I'm thinking, okay, we're talking about global citizenship, and we're trying to let our kids know, especially for me here in Nigeria, like, okay, we want our kids to know that truly the world is a global village, and right now there's no separation. All right, so how about getting into that kind of PBL where there has to be a collaboration between two more schools around, a school in Nigeria, a school in Lagos, a school in California, a school in Dubai. They're working on a project together, and as low as from elementary to middle school level, and then giving these kids an opportunity to understand and see into the world as it is, and then they begin to view the environment as not only their immediate environment, but the environment as the global village indeed.
yes.
And so they also, the last time we had a call, Shona,
Yeah.
when you brought your kid around, and the boy was like, who is that guy over there?
Right. And then we had a big discussion about, well, where's Nigeria? We went to the globe, we looked, and we talked about, the internet, and we said, sometimes it's hard to talk to people, and so then he wanted to know what Nigeria was like. And for us, I would much rather learn about a place or someone that's actually there instead of reading about it, right?
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it. And a lot of people that can't travel. So yeah, I remember that. He still talks about that.
Amazing. And my son, who is just nearly 2 years old, had a Zoom experience for the first time. If I could, I don't. It's just around enough. I don't.
Give him one more year, better than you.
Kids do not need a lot of time to
I
learn.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah. They learn so quick.
Totally That's amazing. Teresa, what do you think about that?
Look, I'm getting worried about the time because I'm thinking,
I know.
I could stay here all day. This is so interesting. I have so many questions. I have so many comments. But I think that what we are seeing here, even just with the interaction about your kids right now, this is learning is ubiquitous. Anywhere, everywhere, anytime, accidental, on purpose. I think this is exactly what we want to people to understand. So yes, we're giving it a name, project-based learning, but it's actually just an experience. And
Experiential learning.
Yes, and what you are presenting is an easy way, because sometimes when we hear these keywords, we also think it sounds difficult. We're going to need glue, we're going to need this, and we're going to need that. You're already making your mental list, but it shouldn't be. I like what you have there because it presents a problem. It gives you solutions. You've thought ahead of, a mom is not going to have glue. She's not going to have any of the things that we normally need for a project. So let's make it easy. Let's make it accessible. That's what we want learning to look like. It needs to be easy. It needs to be accessible. It needs to be uncomplicated. Thank you so much for what you shared.
Oh,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Shona. Thank you, Mercy. Thank you for your time. Don't worry, Mercy, I'm coming after you. Let's
Yeah.
let's go about this. All right.
Bye-bye. Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye for now, Shona.
Thank
Bye
you
for
so
now, Mercy.
much.
Okay. We need to have two more presentation. And let me see, Jessica is still here with us. We're still struggling to get Mr. Lani on board. I'm sure we're gonna have him anytime soon. Mr. Lani, are you there? Can you hear me? Oh, okay, I'm not sure if we can hear him. Hello, Jessica, are you there? Can you hear me?
Hi guys, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm doing very well. Jessica, exactly to see you again. Thank you for your time.
It's so nice to see you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, so Jessica, we're just gonna hand over to you right now. We know you have an amazing PBL experience to share with us, and so we're just gonna hand over to you right now to take the stage. So over to you, Jessica.
Thank you. So I am an 8th grade civics teacher, which means I teach about American government and American history, and I'm based out of Florida. And so a lot of my content has to do with American history. And so I absolutely need to hit my content standards, and I need to be able to have gradable things for my classroom. But I can also create experiences that my students, that is inquiry based. So my students lead the way. They have total agency in my classroom, and I can give them the kind of learning experiences through PBL where they're not only gaining the content that they need to succeed through whatever programs that we're in class, but also the skills that are based in those. And so I just wanted to show you what my classroom kind of looks like and how we do both of those things together. So first of all, when we're looking at project-based learning, we're looking at content, we're looking at immediate application and real world application, which is so important. And we're looking at the building of skills. And these skills, like we constantly talk about here, are like the 4th industrial revolution and how our kids need to adapt to a changing world. And so what a lot of project-based learning is based on is a driving question. So we need to hook our kids. We need to be inquiry-based. A lot of what I do is teaching kids how to ask questions, never just accept things as fact. What you're going to see in my presentation is a lot of the outcomes, honestly. But what is graded is the progress that goes along the way. So I'm constantly grading the progress, and my kids know that I base more of my grades on skill acquisition than what looks shiny at the end. I'm just lucky that it'll look shiny at the end. There is lots of group discussion. So there's lots of group discussion. And then especially this year when I integrated Agile into my classroom, there's lots of small group discussion. So I am going around and I'm dealing group by group, answering their questions because, and you're about to see with my driving questions, that kids can take the driving question and then take it whichever way they want. And as long as they can solve the question at the end, that is what really matters. Finally, because a lot of project-based learning is group-based, it's really important to me to make sure that every single student understands the content and the skills and can apply it. And so there's usually a writing piece at the end in which they can answer the essential question for me. Now, as you're about to see, there's no right answer in the essential question. And that's what makes it really interesting, is that it meets every student where they are. And so that is really important to a classroom teacher that's looking at a variety of students, all with different learning needs, all with different learning styles. How can we make sure that all of them get the education that they need? So one of my first projects that I've been doing for years, I love this project because it goes across several different units. Our driving question is, how do historic events influence current government? Again, because I teach government. This starts in the 1760s during the colonial age of England and the colonies, but then it goes up to the Bill of Rights, and you're about to see how it kind of transforms all the way through. So we take these events and the kids learn about them, and then they create timelines. And so as you can see in my classroom, I call my classroom a humanities lab, because the walls are whiteboard, every surface is whiteboard, everything is about student space. Students are allowed to share their space and their thought process and their work everywhere. There's no space for me, there's only space for students. And in these timelines, kids take the events, the people, the quotes, the published works that they find most important, that they think are driving change in this time period, and they're all creating their own timelines across the board. And as you can see, each one of them are different. They all stylize them different. They all make them in different ways. The only thing that is similar is that when they choose these topics, they must summarize them. So they're using the skill of summary, identifying the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And then they're using a special kind of synthesis in which they're taking that event and they're having to create it into a visual. And by doing that, by taking it from one medium and moving it to another, they're able to bring in deeper levels of understanding. And so it really cements these ideas. So you're looking at these timelines, they're all different because they're all student generated. I don't tell them how to do this. This is completely
Oh, I think we just I think we just lost Jessica, probably due to the network, I would say. But Teresa, are you there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I think, yeah, I think that might have been, that was a sudden connection loss, I think.
Yeah. Okay, she's back. All right, she's back. Okay, so Jessica, we have you back. Please go ahead.
sorry. Am I okay to go?
Sure you are. Please go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So in these timelines, they're a tool. And so when we're looking at the US Constitution, which was written in 1789, the kids can look and say, well, why are the courts built this way? And they can look back to the event. So it's a learning tool that they can constantly go back to. Why is there federalism? Why does the executive branch function like this? And they could go back to their timelines and see what causes this. So they're making identification through time periods. Finally, we get to the Bill of Rights, which is huge. And this is part of our government that restrains our government from impeding on the rights of the individuals. And so a lot of these, I mean, all of them, are based on the history of it. And so when you look at the Bill of Rights, you might say, well, why is freedom of speech and the freedom of religion and the freedom of press #1 instead of #8? Why do you need a free trial? Why do you need a fair trial? Why do you need a speedy trial? These things come up and the kids want to ask these questions, but these things exist in 2021. And so we have to analyze them, first of all, in the history context, like where did they come from and why were they significant when the founding fathers wrote them? But then we need to discuss them in today's world. And so this is where question formulation technique comes in, and the kids write their own questions. They reference the history of it using the timeline, but then they're free to answer the questions that they write themselves. And it all ties back to that essential question is, how does past events affect our current government? And so they're now taking these questions that they have about the world that they live in, and they're examining it not only through a historical sense, but through a present day sense. And so that is the build out of this entire project, because they can chunk it into these learning blocks and build off of this learning, but it's all student generated. Our next project is the social contract theory. Again, we're dealing with all of these skills, building real world connections and collaboration, but we're dealing with social contract theory. So going all the way back in time to the 1600s. And the question here, I'm sorry, is how should power be distributed in a stable society? And so kids are thinking about how power, who has power and how ideally they would like to distribute it to give others power. And so one of the ones that I love the most is this group decided that the people in America didn't have a voice in their own government, that our representatives were not really representing us. And so they created an app and they prototyped it here, in which they could see what bills were hitting the floor in Congress, and then they could directly tell their congressmen how they wanted them to vote. And they felt that this led to more transparency, which also distributed power back to the people, which they found was really important. My next group, we live in Fort Lauderdale, and they were seeing that there was a homeless population that they didn't feel like they were being adequately taken care of, but we also have a very high tourism population. So they came up with an idea to build a merchandise brand that they would sell in Fort Lauderdale Beach and Miami Beach and South Beach, which the proceeds would go to better build out homeless shelters. And to do this, they not only had to research marketing, but they had to research what was going on with the homeless community, what was going on with the homeless shelters, how much money they needed to raise, how much they needed to budget, the pricing of things. So they did all of this research because they felt that the homeless people lacked the power in the community and they needed to be taken care of better. And so this was their solution in distributing power. Finally, most of my groups, and it's so funny because we're having this conversation constantly with this group of educators and around the world, is education reform. Most of my groups want the way that education is currently being held to be changed. And so one of these groups decided that they really don't like the way that high school is set up. They don't want to take all these extra classes. They want to go into these routes. And so they picked these 5 career fields and said, we can start to go into these areas so we could specialize early and actually learn the things that are going to benefit in our lives. And this was one of the ways that they felt power could be distributed, because if education can reach all students, then everyone rises up from it. And so this is how they felt power could be better distributed, was with a better educated population. Our next question, this is about the US Constitution, and is how is the Constitution designed to distribute power? Now, the main skill that we're working here is systems thinking, but there is a lot of design thinking in here, because part of this was, how are we going to show systems thinking? How are we going to show parts of the government working together? And the kids actually came up with the idea of game design. And so they decided that they wanted to design games based on the Constitution. Little did they know how hard that was going to be, but they did an excellent job. So the first game is called Ballot Battle. And this is how people running for president, how they go through the campaigning. So they're showing about how they need to campaign to different levels, how they need to work together with Congress and the judicial branch. You can see on these cards, and I love these, they're using government-based terminology right here. They're using real things that come off of the campaign trail. The amount of research and thinking that went into this was momentous. And there's so many systems coming together that they're really understanding something that's so abstract like government. The next project that I really love is Vote to Victory. This is explaining the Electoral College. So each state has a certain number of votes, and that helps us elect our president in the United States. And they have to go through these challenges of what do you do when a congressman does this? What do you do when you have a representative that? So it goes through all of these challenges, but it shows how the different government branches have to work together to accomplish these things. And lastly, we have EAZY articles, which is, again, the 3 branches of government working together, and you need to ace your way through the 7 articles of the Constitution. So instead of just dealing with the executive branch or the judicial branch, it deals with all of the branches working together. And so this is real systems thinking. They're taking their knowledge, they're hitting their standards, and they still have full agency, and they're able to learn from each other. And I have to tell you, with these games, my kids came in during study halls, during free time, at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day. They played these games until the last day of school. So not only are they fully in charge of what they're doing and they're designing and they're getting all these other skills, they're relearning these skills. They're constantly going back and going over the material again and again in order to play the games, because they were so highly engaging. One of my last huge projects of this year was, how has the United States Constitution been interpreted and obeyed throughout America's history, which is really, really difficult to think about, because it was written over 200 years ago. And how has each president or each Congress and each Supreme Court really played with the idea of the Constitution? And so to do this, our kids decided that they were going to build an American History Museum. And groups self-selected, so they selected who they were going to work with, they selected the time period that they were going to do, and then we talked about what makes a museum good and what makes a museum bad. And so my kids decided that they really needed a hands-on, fully interactive, engaging museum. That way they can learn all of this content. And so they made their own rubrics. They designed everything from top to bottom. I set the pace for them and I guided them through, but they were fully in charge of this entire project. They did every little piece together, and the things that they were able to create are quite stunning. So this one was about the World War II, the Pacific battles. So you can see we have a recreation. There's QR codes that you can scan and watch videos about. And it all goes back to what are the powers of the Constitution during these battles? So what is the executive branch saying, because they're in charge of war, but what else is going on in terms of spending and all of these other ideals in the Pacific War? The next one is about the Cold War. This was a great one because the kids wanted to use a metaphor for what a hydrogen bomb means in terms of world relations, especially between the United States and the USSR at the time, and how they can make that a metaphor for what we were doing and was it proper according to the Constitution. And here is just a little video. You can't see the whole thing, but you can see these are breakout boxes. So kids had, you had to go through each box and unlock it. And that was about the War of 1812, but it covers all of American history. Here we are with the Civil War. And their work is quite fantastic. We had everything from videos to cooking shows to dioramas. We had kids acting things out. We had Minecraft. So it was really up to them how they wanted to show knowledge. But again, they had to design their own rubric. So they had to make a plan about how they were going to be assessed, which they've never been asked about before, and then how they were going to be the teachers and teach other people these things, these important lessons of history. Finally, this was my first major PBL, and this was a major PBL because it was the entire grade all at once, and this is with my 5th graders. And we were teaching them the Civil War, and it's the end of the year, and the kids aren't paying attention. But the Civil War is one of the most important moments in all of American history. The country almost pulled itself apart. And so it's significant that we have to teach kids about the legislative compromises that led to the Civil War. They need to know about the civil rights movement. They need to know about the abolitionists, but they really need to have a better understanding. They can't just get that out of books and go and really understand the time period. And so what we chose to do was students signed up to be individuals from this time period and really research them. And then what they had to do to synthesize the information was they had to take clipboard, which is just basically cardboard, and they had to create an artifact that best represented that person and then they had to act like them for the day. So walk around so they can meet each other and learn about each other. The other thing that we did was the Civil War is over 5 years. It's very, very long. It's very complicated. It's extremely violent and bloody, which is not appropriate for 5th graders. But we wanted to make them understand how violent and bloody this was, how much people believed in their cause. And so we looked at the Battle of Gettysburg, which is a turning point in the Civil War. It's one of the bloodiest battles in all of the Civil War. And so what we did was we made a recreation of it. So here are some of the artifacts that 5th graders were able to come up with. And it's really amazing because when you think about these kids, they're like 11 and they're learning about these people and their significance in American history and why they are so valuable and why the Civil War is so important in our history. And so here's a little video about, I'm going to pull you through so you can see, because what we wanted the kids to get out of this was why this battle was so epic. And so what we did was kids were assigned cards, they were assigned people, and on the battlefield, kids read out the events of the Battle of Gettysburg, day 1, day 2, day 3. And as you can see, we have a lot of these kids lying down at the end of day 1. Certain kids did lay down at the end of day 2. Certain kids did. And then they got the idea of how many people died on this battlefield. And so in the Battle of Gettysburg, 52,000 men died in a 3-day battle out of a 5-year war. And to put that in any kind of context, 57,000 American men died in the Vietnam War. And so that was the entire war. This is a 3-day battle. So each one of these kids represents 1,000 men that died during this battle, which is when the South tried to rise up into the North and the Union forces forced them back down. And so it was giving these kids an idea of what this battle is really about. And we were lucky enough that we had a high school senior come down and dressed up like Abraham Lincoln, and he read the Gettysburg Address. And as a history major, I've read the Gettysburg Address hundreds of times. But I can tell you that in this moment, when you're seeing these people on the ground and you're getting the idea of what was really happening, that Gettysburg Address sparks something so emotional and so new when you really understand what Lincoln is trying to get across, that he's not just going there to give a speech and he's not just trying to rally people, he's consecrating that ground because it is forever hallowed based on the amount of blood that was shed there and the conviction for which these men fought. And so this was one of my favorite PBLs, especially because the kids come out of this. These kids are now juniors in high school and still come to my classroom and talk to me about the Battle of Gettysburg and how significant it was as they're going through their APUSH course. So overall, what I wanted to get across, and I hope that I did, was that you can cover content, you can hit your standards, you can absolutely always apply real world application. And the amount of skills that you're building in a project-based learning unit are far beyond what you're going to build in a traditional unit. And so if you ever have any questions, would ever like to reach out or share your ideas with me, I'd always love a new conversation.
Wow. Amazing. Teresa, let me hand over to you.
Wow.
Sorry, that was fast. I know you guys were.
No, I think because there's so much there, again, time constraints, but there's so much to unpack about that. I think one of the things that is really striking is you get a sense that this is not actually only about one question, but once you've asked that guiding question, as a teacher, you sort of just continue asking the right kind of questions so that you can get the kids to go in the right direction. And I think while you are doing something like this, the kids sort of also come up with questions of their own, and they sort of also try and find the direction that they want to go to. I was just thinking earlier on about what Mari was saying. So even if you take something like what you have done in your classes, which is absolutely fabulous, you are also allowing the learners to go where their minds take them with a project like this, because you want to go and you're going to find those different perspectives, especially the talking points that we are involved in these days. And I think I really appreciate seeing a practical example of this, because I think in the past, there was so much pressure on the teacher because the teacher had to be the knowledge bearer. You had to know all the answers. Now, you get to ask the questions and your learners come up with the answers. And I think if we can get that around that, I think
the best part about project-based learning, and now I've integrated Agile into my learning as well, is that I step from the front of the room to the back of the room. I'm no longer handing out information. One of the first things that I teach my students is called question formulation technique. It's how to ask questions and then how to research them for more questions. So essentially, I pose that big question, and that's the learning goal. So I know that on a piece of paper, my administrator needs to come in and say, did you hit this goal? And I can say, yeah, I did. But how the kids get there and what they want to explore within it, and it gives 100% agency to the student, because you can have a student that believes X and you can have a student that believes Y, and they'll go around their way of doing it and exploring it and guiding their own research. They just have to get to that learning goal at the end. So it's like I set the goal and they build their own path. But now, and especially this year after I integrated Agile, I work as an individual and a tiny group-based teacher. I saw my kids this year in hybrid learning much more than I've ever seen my students before, is that I meet with them in small groups. They have individual questions. I can answer their questions. I can deal with differentiated learning. I can deal with your learning needs. I am there for you. I'm almost like your personal teacher, because you're guiding your education and I'm just there to help guide you.
Absolutely. Can you define agile thinking first?
Oh, of course. So agile thinking came from software development in the early 2000s, and it's reached out into other agencies. But it's basically setting an agile mindset, which means that you are able to set goals for yourself. You work as self-directed teams. You go through like quick sprints. So you find little pieces of work that you can get done. And as you do them, you constantly reflect, you're constantly having communication, and you're able to adapt and be flexible to the changing needs. So as we're going through these projects, kids think that they're going to go from here to there, and that's what they're going to do. But we know that that never happens in life. And so being agile means being constantly adaptive to what's going on around you. So if you get the flu and can't come in for a week, what are we going to do? We need to adapt. We need to be agile. If we think that this question is going to be great and we start researching it and we find out that it's a dead end, we need to be agile and we need to go around. How are we constantly problem solving? And so for me, agile is like a key that unlocks the skills for the future. All of those skills that everyone here all day long has been talking about what our students need, are all locked into this mindset. And if we can bring this to all of our students all over the world, they will have the skills ready to participate in the job market upon exit of high school. And that is what I really want to say.
There we go. I love that. And I love that we no longer need to be descriptive. History, and especially the subject matter that you are involved in, it's no longer a list of facts that you need to go and memorize and you need to regurgitate. And now you can actually go and find out, but that's not actually what happened. Actually, there's a whole other perspective that we're not considering. So I appreciate what
we have. All of human history right here, and never before in the human history of the world have we ever had this. Everything is right here. We don't need to memorize it. We need to build connections. That's what learning is now. It's the building connections between information so that we can innovate and we can be creative and we can problem solve. And that is what our jobs are now. We are not distilling information. This does it.
There we go. I'm going to give back to you. This is disruptive. This is what we were going for.
Yeah, so it's in Jessica's classroom that you don't see probably a teacher's seat. It's in a classroom that everywhere is a whiteboard.
Yes, and every surface is as well, and it really stops the kids from. It doesn't put boundaries on thinking. So those whiteboards are open for the kids. And when there's not a project going along, the kids come in between classes and just draw. They write out things. They study for math there. It's their space to use. And it really helps them open up their minds because there's no boundaries to their thinking. It can be on a table. It can be on the wall. It doesn't matter. It's, are you thinking?
That there is no boundary to their thinking. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you, Jessica. This has been a mental flight of project-based learning, and this has really been an awesome time. Thank you, Jessica, for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's been an amazing journey so far. We need to take one more presentation. Okay. Yeah, viewers, thank you wherever you're viewing from. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
We have some good comments there also. Rosalind Jackson says, way to finish the session strong. Great presentation. I do think so. I think that definitely, I think that's what we were aspiring to, learning from so many different excellent examples. And if you think about it, everything that all the other speakers also have touched on was just basically beautifully presented in that presentation. If we think about the PBL session from Kyle, we think about Sally and her representation of STEAM or STREAM and what that has been, that journey has been for us. I think also it just takes together everything that we want to convey to people. If you are having a problem with getting your mind around how to do this, I do think our speakers today have given us excellent examples of what the practicality of this actually is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We've saved the best for last.
Okay. Please, just a second. I think the network.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, maybe she might just want to do without the video and talk about the project because of the network issues. I'm not sure the video can ride on the network. Okay, I'm just going to tell her that. Hello, Evie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'll suggest because of the network that you leave the video and you just take us into the project.
I can hear you.
Yeah, so I'll suggest you take us into the project without the video because I'm not sure if your network will be able to ride, the video can ride on the network. I'm not sure, so you don't go off again. We don't want you to. We are really missing you. We don't want you to go off again.
Okay, all right. Let's just give this a shot.
Great.
All right. So here we go.
I say anything them do not do it, no not God do it, no not do it, no. Anything them do not God do it, no not God do it, no not God do it, no. I say anything them do not God do it, no not God do it, no not God do it, no. Anything them do not God do it, no not God do it, no not God do it, no. Say anything them God do it, no not God do it, no not God do it, no. Anything them do not God do it, no not God do it, no not God do it, no.
Thank you, thank you. I love you. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Obrigado, gracias. Danke schön. Medase, asante sana. Ndatenda, siyabonga. I love you, thank you.
So I hope we got the video. That was just a summary of what happened May 21 this year. The students came up with an idea while we were in class, actually. And we were talking about cows for home economics. And they asked the question that, ma'am, what if we make the food? Can we sell it? And then the idea came up and we said, fine, definitely, we can sell it. And that was how the Feed Our Dream project came to be. The children had to come together to make plans themselves. Then they brought me and we sat down, went through their, just show them support. They majorly had the floor for this project. And when the idea planning was over, it was time for publicity because we're out to make money. What's a business without advertising, right? Parents, the staff, and the teachers. So we started advertising the meal ticket for 1,000 naira. And we also made investors because we wanted to get certain things in place. And so the students had to come up with proposals to write to investors, a promise of a return on investment of 15%. It was a really juicy one, and we had quite a number of investors, to the point that the investor slots became sold out. And we also had meal tickets. Now, the student had the intention of creating just 50 meal tickets, but due to the publicity and the anticipation of the whole project, students running restaurants, it was amazing that we had so much support. We ended up selling about 9 for the event. And so when the students got enough money for the program, they had to go shopping. They had to make sure that they get things at the cheapest rate. Because running a restaurant, they understood that maximizing profit is essential. So they were really in sync with the whole business ideas. At that time, they became entrepreneurs. So they went to an abattoir where it's direct and fresh. And you can see them making choices, trying to get the best from the market. The preparation was indeed large. So they had to get these big cooking pots. They had to rent this. And the students just took to cooking like they've been doing this before. The way they coordinated themselves all through the preparation was really amazing. You would observe here that the teachers are just standing at the back, just observing and supervising. Teachers are not leading the way. And I think that is the core of project-based learning. We allow the students to lead the way. We allow them take steps, allow them be in front while we take the back position and observe and support in just 1 or 2 things. But by doing this, the children feel they're in control of their learning, and it's interesting, it's captivating, and the learning that takes place at this point is even more than what could be done in the classroom. So this shows how the students were getting ready for the whole restaurant. They also packaged the food, and they needed a location, so they had to set up. We had to set up the restaurant right in the school premises, and we had support from other students. It shifted from being the project for just the class year alone, that's the year 9 students. It became a project for the whole school. Everyone was so excited and into the planning process and setting up process. And then they turned this simple open space into a beautiful restaurant, as we can see here. They made it colorful, they made it enticing. In fact, just the sight of the restaurant alone is enough to stimulate appetite. And then the restaurant is open for business. I must say, the students really enjoyed the meal so well with the preparation that there was hardly any complaint. Business, they had to fulfill their words by paying back investors. So that's just a rundown of the project.
Amazing.
But what did the children from all of this? The students got to see what it took to run a restaurant. At the end of the day, I asked my students, how many of you would like to run a restaurant? They said, ma'am, it's profitable, but it's stressful. Truly, they made profits. They were able to realize 90,000 to invest into the business, and they were able to get profits of over 6,000 naira after all expenses. Mind you, they had to sell this ticket at a really subsidized rate, because the idea is see how we can make it even on a smaller scale in school. And we do hope that the project will not just be for this year alone. It will be something that we'll keep on doing yearly. The project-based learning they had in school, and they say, yes, it was worth it. So really,
Okay. Okay, she's still in the studio, but I guess it's network for her.
I think it's the
then-
network.
Yeah. Okay, she's still speaking. Yeah, so this is another amazing. Teresa, what do you say to this?
Pearl's Garden. I love it. I think, again, this example epitomizes what we've been speaking about today. You know, while the video is playing, you know, as an educator, you automatically find yourself doing this. Is like, okay, I see a list, so they've planned. I see collaboration. I see quantities. I see them measuring out this. So you already are looking at what it is that the learners are gaining out of the experience, and then listening to the feedback coming after everything came together. Amazing. The entrepreneurial skills, all the aspects that they had to focus on, it comes together perfectly. And again, you don't see the teacher in that. You see the learners. They are doing, they are active. So that authentic learning that we are after, I think it is perfectly displayed. I loved
Amazing.
it. Love it.
Amazing.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you
you're
for
welcome.
sharing. That's awesome. I hope it's going to be a yearly thing.
Definitely. It's
We need
it's going to be a yellow
We
thing,
need to get global investors.
right? That would be awesome. That would be awesome. I will try to be creative with it. We'll try to tweak it a little bit. Maybe the next edition we might have not a restaurant but a snack bar, and the next one could just be a cocktail, just anything, something. Yes, the
Maybe
collaboration.
I'm thinking a hospitality school with a restaurant.
All right.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's
Thank
good.
you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Ovi. Yeah, thank you.
You're
Ovi.
welcome.
Sorry about that. The tech, the network is and all of that. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're
It's
exactly
fine. We are in Africa, so we do understand.
That's how we
Thank
roll.
you.
That's good. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really been an amazing journey. Of course, we took you all the way from Hong Kong to South Africa to California to Florida to and then back all the way to Nigeria, showing you different experiences with project-based learning. you can see what's happening. A lot of things are happening in several places. Education is definitely taking a new narrative, a new direction. It's no longer the way it used to be. Um, it's no longer about just the grade race. We don't bring kids who have the potential to be innovators and inventors, and then we lock. I wrote an article recently, and I tagged it lockdown. Okay, so it's that's what I see in schools. I see a lockdown. This is not the pandemic. This is the mentademic, if I can use that word. I don't know, but it's a lockdown. A lot of kids that have the potential to change their nation are locked down in a system where the expectation is only response to getting good grades. And they do not have that opportunity. It's quite painful. They don't have that opportunity to be opened up. They are divinely wired to do a lot of great things, but because they are in a system, in an atmosphere where the expectation is not innovation, where the expectation is not invention, where the expectation is just only get the good grades. And then so many parents too are following that track. They don't understand what education is all about. You put a child in a school, and what you're expecting is the kid to come back with a good grade. You don't understand. You don't want the best for your kid. All right.
Yeah.
We'll talk to parents another time and let them understand that education is not about I send my kid to school, it comes back with a good grade. I mean, who cares?
Okay.
We're in an innovation-driven economy, not in a grade-driven economy. So we know what is the right thing. We know what the learning should look like, and so let me hand over to you, Teresa. So you say a final word, and we'll just wrap up the event.
I'm at a loss of words because I think that if we just take a look at the journey that we've had together for the past year, I think what I've seen displayed over the last couple of months in the other conferences, and especially at the conference today, I think it just sort of brings together the vision that we have. And I think it feels good to know that our vision is shared by other educators, other specialists, other experts who are already doing it and basically giving the picture of what it is that we envision in our minds. So I'm really very appreciative of, for all our participants today, for all our presenters, for the trouble that they've gone through trying to get connected, time zones, putting together the material for us, doing the research. We really do appreciate it. It's been invaluable, and I think we can only learn from people who are disruptive themselves and who are rogue themselves and who go out on a limb, because that inspires us. That inspires us also. I want to talk to lockdown. I think that, we keep looking at lockdown as some sort of punishment or some sort of curse. I'm looking at it another way. I'm thinking lockdown is actually beneficial to us because we are now locking down the systems that limit us. So as learners and educators, let's look at lockdown as we are locking down the systems that contain us, and we are using the extra time that we have at our disposal to empower ourselves. And that's what we aspire to. We just want to empower ourselves and whoever we come into contact with. So thank you for the time. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, super awesome. So this is what we'll call it for this event. Please follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram. We have a lot of research work going on. We always our kind of research is not the kind of we do publications of articles, and no, we don't do that kind of research. We do real-time research. We do visual research. We do, like Sean has said, meeting with people, discussing with people, and we do real-time research. We don't want, I tell the research where you just do a publication, it's not differentiated. Like, that's the truth. Not everyone loves to sit with a 50 pages and you're trying to go to research. How many people read those kind of research, so that's not even differentiated, and that's not going to reach everyone. So our kind of research is not paper article. No, we do visual research. All right. So we do real-time research where we're engaging with people, where we're discussing with people, and then we're sharing current facts, current trends. I mean, current, things that are happening. We're showing you the way it is, and that's what it is. So please follow us on all our social media handles, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next conference in August. So this is where we'll say goodbye for everyone. Goodbye, and thank you for staying connected. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. See you next time.
Yeah.